I do think Tesla is underrated from an AI standpoint. In terms of real-world AI, Tesla has the best real-world AI.
The two positions that you've taken that have brought the most heat on you, number one, defending free speech. Number two, advocating peace. And
how dare you, Elon Musk?
Yeah.
You open source your patents at Tesla. You are very pro open source your source code at X. Would you ever considering releasing Dojo and FSD more as a platform substrate for everybody else, or that's sort of off the table right now?
Well, I don't know that, in the case of say, Dojo or our inference hardware that's in the car, our inference computer, which is actually a lot more compute than Dojo, by the way. We've got, I don't know, somewhere in the order of 4 million cars that have high-speed AI inference computers in them. Like open sourcing chip designs doesn't mean you suddenly get that thing.
Yeah.
So you can open source the software, but I think chip designs, they'll need ones that can actually use those chips, or really kind of, would be someone that's willing to spend many billions of dollars on a computer development. So anyway, I think in the case of Dojo is interesting. Optimus is really interesting. Anyway, I think just in general, Tesla is one of the world's leading AI companies, and in some respects, the leading AI company when it comes to real-world AI, understanding the real world and actually reacting to that with self-driving. And I think that will become part of the solution for AGI, or general superintelligence. So in the case of Tesla, I think we've got a sort of a good governance structure in that there's no super voting rights or anything like that. So if I'm, go crazy, the shareholders of Tesla can vote me out. I have enough vote to be, I think, moderately influential, but not enough to stay in even if I'm doing crazy stuff. So I think that's actually good.
I was told we have to wrap him at 5.
Oh, okay. Just on the FSD, before we wrap, I'll let you go. We were talking earlier this year, and you said, hey, maybe ChatGPT 4.0 like moment for self-driving was coming. And I've been playing with the beta, and how close does it feel to you? Because some of the rides it's been doing for me are pretty darn impressive.
The latest beta is pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I used to love it on the highways and on the streets. I'd be like, okay, but now I'm using it increasingly on the streets. So how do you feel about it right now? And I guess you made a lot of predictions on it over the years, but it does feel like it's getting pretty close.
Yeah, I think it's very close to, being in a situation where even if there's no human oversight or intervention, that the probability of a safe journey is higher with FSD and no supervision, like even if you're asleep in the car, than if the person is driving. We were very close to that. Those that have the FSD beta, which really anyone can get at this point. So the miles we see driven under the FSD beta currently are much safer than the miles that are driven without it. That's already a very good milestone. But you can just see that it's getting better and better. Like if you compare the FSD beta today versus 6 months ago versus a year ago versus 18 months ago, it's really, the improvement is dramatic. Yeah. We've got the final piece of the puzzle, which is to have the control part of the car transition from about 300,000 lines of C++ code to also a neural network. So the whole system will be a neural network, photons in to controls out, and that's kind of the final piece of the puzzle for full self-driving being significantly better than human.
As a business leader with all these business relationships with China, how do you make decisions and how things are changing, and how do you think about where this is headed?
SpaceX has SpaceX and Starlink have no in China whatsoever. They're not allowed. SpaceX doesn't launch China satellites, and Starlink is banned in China. So to be clear, SpaceX, Starlink, zero business in China. In the case of Tesla, one of our about 4 vehicle factories. One is in China. So, it's a significant car market, but it is, so what I'm trying to say is by far the bulk of my business interests, if I were purely mercantile, which I aspire not to be, are outside of China. Let's just be clear about that. Then, with respect to, now that said, I think I understand China well. I've been there many times. I've met with the senior leadership at many levels of China for many years. And so I think I've got a pretty good understanding, at least as an outsider of China. So, and Tesla has been very successful domestically in China. So, the fundamental thing here is really Taiwan. China has, well, really since for like half a century or so, maybe longer at this point, their policy has been to sort of reunite Taiwan with China. From this standpoint, maybe it's analogous to like Hawaii or something like that, like an integral part of China that is arbitrarily not part of China. Mostly because of the U.S. has stopped, the U.S. Pacific Fleet has stopped any sort of reunification effort force. So now, really, things getting to the point increasingly year over year, where China's military strength is increasing, and ours is more or less static. And strategically, you can imagine trying to defend Taiwan is not easy because it's very close to the coast of China. So there will come a point, if probably not in the not too distant future, where China's military strength in that region far exceeds U.S. military strength in that region. And if one is to take China's policy literally, and probably one should, then there will be some forceful be used for, to incorporate Taiwan into China. This is what they've said, that if there's not a diplomatic solution, there will be a solution by force.
Let me, if I can.
And so, really, what's going on here, and you're seeing, this in many areas, and I think this tempo is going to increase, is that, both China and the U.S. are preparing for a potential showdown, in the South China Sea. So that's why you're seeing increasing restrictions on export of U.S. technology to China, such as the NVIDIA's, the NVIDIA H100 is being banned. You're not allowed to ship this to China. And I think there'll be more and more. You also not allowed to ship advanced chip making equipment to China. And I suspect China's going to respond with some reciprocal sanctions, and I think you'll see this kind of a tit for tat reciprocal sanctions increasing in the next few years. So I think quite a very hot temperature. And then we'll see this: is there going to be a diplomatic solution to reunification or a non-diplomatic solution? But it has made it clear that there will, one way or another, be a solution from this standpoint. Well, the AI discussion is certainly a long one, or could be a long one. Digital superintelligence might be the most significant technology that humanity ever creates. And it has the potential to be more dangerous than nuclear weapons. So, in the case of creating OpenAI, it was to have there not be a unipolar world where Google, with its subsidiary DeepMind, would control an overwhelming amount of AI talent and compute and resources, which then is somewhat dependent on basically how Larry Page and Sergey Brin and Eric Schmidt believe things should go, because they between the three of them, or two out of three, have control over Alphabet, because they've got super voting rights. And it's quite concerned based on some conversations I had with Larry Page, where, he did call me a speciesist for being pro-humanity. And so I'm like, what side are you on, Larry? Not ours, I would say. I think, and so I felt like uncomfortable having the entire future of digital superintelligence be in the hands of someone who called me a speciesist for being pro-humanity. How can it not be? So that's OpenAI was originally created as an open source nonprofit, and now is a closed form. It appears to be. It should be renamed Closed Form Max Nonprofit AI. It is closed, and they are aiming to, I think, try to make $100 billion. I think, according to Sam Altman, get $100 billion from somewhere for some vast amount of compute to create digital God. Apparently, all the weights are stored in a comma-separated value file, by the way. So, our digital God will be a CSV file.
How do we import it? File, import, God.
To Excel, see what happens. So anyway, so now OpenAI is somewhat. It's also very closely aligned with Microsoft. Microsoft is really. The OpenAI servers are running in Azure and Microsoft data centers. So really what you have is, I think at the end of the day, Microsoft having more control than OpenAI. They have access to all the source code. They have access to all the weights of the GPT-4 and future versions. So they have all rights to this to the thing. It's not at any point really they could cut off OpenAI. I don't think OpenAI quite realizes that the dependence on Microsoft. And even if Microsoft does break some contract, they'll just be tied up in litigation for years. So really, you've got a contest between kind of like Google and Microsoft. Google, as I mentioned, I'm concerned about Larry not caring enough about AI safety, and good reason. And then Microsoft just is I think. A profit-seeking organization, and I think such is great, but I can't say that it would be difficult to say that Microsoft has an amazing track record in moral decision making. So
Diplomatic.
Anyway, so I was like, okay, look, I think let's try to create a third company that is competitive. I do think Tesla is underrated from an AI standpoint in terms of real-world AI. Tesla has the best real-world AI. So, hopefully between XAI and Tesla, there's kind of a third contender for visual superintelligence.
Would you look? You've done.
At the end of the day, you have to say, how complicated is a system like the X Twitter platform? How different is it from a group chat? Frankly, it's like a group chat at scale. So, I don't think you need an army to maintain a group chat.
Yeah.
The entire self-driving AI software team is 200 people, and what they're doing is much more complex than Twitter. So the intent is for the X platform to be the best home for creators. Where if you've got interesting content, then you want to put it on our platform. And there's a lot of questions about sort of the algorithm and whatnot. I should mention the algorithm is I think almost all of it is open sourced, and we will I think quite soon have the entire thing open source. The only reason it really hasn't been done entirely open source yet is because we're somewhat embarrassed with the code and need to just clean it up before putting something extremely embarrassing out there. But the point is that we want transparency builds trust, and if you've got if you can recreate the results on the X platform of how viral a post is going to be independently using the public algorithm, the open source algorithm, that's really where we want to get to. So you kind of know what to expect. and why something happened. Now I should say that we are trying to optimize for user time on the platform. What this naturally means is that posting content that someone looks at longer is going to get higher priority than content that is short. Just because the system is trying to it's aspiring to maximize unregretted user minutes is what I call it. So like basically, how do we if we're succeeding, you want to spend more time on the platform, and you want to and after having spent that time, you don't want to regret it. But the more content that you post on the system, the more reach that thing will get, because the system is saying, oh, the user is spending more time on the platform because they're seeing, say, your podcast or reading a long form article or watching some video. That's going to get a lot more time than, say, if you link to a video elsewhere.
Do you want to talk about the ADL and you sort of what the status of that is, whether you're pursuing a lawsuit or not, or where that stands?
I think we'll have to see about that. I mean, the fact of the matter is that ADL did initiate a boycott. They don't call it a boycott; they call it a pause. But a pause that is never ending is a boycott.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. We saw a massive drop in U.S. advertising. We saw basically no change in advertising in Asia, but domestically with ADL is strong. We saw 60% drop in advertising. So, that's pretty intense. And this is despite showing repeated analyses of the system, including third-party analysis of the system, which actually showed that the number of views of hateful content declined. So, the third parties who have all the data analyzed and said, actually, there's less hate speech. The issue, I think, with the ADL is not a question of hate speech. It's not a question of anti-Semitism, obviously. It's that the ADL and a lot of other organizations have become activist organizations which are acting far beyond their stated mandate or their original mandate. And I think far beyond what donors to those organizations think they are doing. One of the things that the ADL was extremely opposed to, and in fact was instrumental in happening, was that the ADL was instrumental in getting Donald Trump deplatformed. And then when we restored the account, they made it super clear that they regarded simply restoring his account on Twitter, now X, that constituted hateful speech. Really, he hasn't even said anything. He has to at least say something or post something for there to be incremental hateful content. This is absurd. And what's this got to do with anti-Semitism? Donald Trump's son-in-law is Jewish, and his Jewish grandparents. I'm pretty sure he's not anti-Semitic. Okay, yeah. He was at the wedding. So, the problem is that a lot of these organizations, like I said, they've really been captured by the woke agenda, and they're pushing a series of beliefs and values that I think are often contrary to what their donors believe.
Hey,
and that's what we have in this situation.
Well, I'll note that the two positions that you've taken that have brought the most heat on you, number one, defending free speech, number two, advocating peace. And
how dare you, Elon Musk?
Yeah, how dare you?
How dare you?
And there's an article.
I'm like in the opposite world or something.
Yeah, we're living in an upside-down world. There's an article in today's New Yorker calling you a supervillain because you're advocating peace and protecting the First Amendment. I mean, it's like completely upside down.
Do you want people to eat their vegetables?
At this point, you literally cannot tell actual press from parody.
No.
It's like, if that was a Babylon Bee or Onion sector.
No, literally.
You're doing a
And change the banner to, Babylon Bee or whatever, Onion or something like that. Have some parody thing. And be like, oh, that's a good joke. SpaceX have provided Starlink connectivity to Ukraine really since the beginning of the war. But at the time this happened, the region around Crimea was actually turned off. Now, the reason it was turned off was, actually originally was because the United States had sanctions against Russia, and we're not allowed to actually, and that includes Crimea in the sanctions, and we're not allowed to actually turn on connectivity to a sanctioned country without explicit government approval, which we did not have from the U.S. government. So basically Ukraine didn't give us any advance warning or heads up or anything. But we just got the sort of urgent calls from the Ukrainian government saying that we needed to turn on Crimea. It's like in the middle of the night, basically. And we're like, what are you talking about? Are we
You up?
What's it for? And then, we basically figured out that this was kind of like a Pearl Harbor type attack on Sebastopol, on the Russian fleet in Sebastopol. So they're really asking us to really proactively take part in a major act of war. If I had received a presidential directive to turn it on, I would have done so, because I do regard the president as the chief executive officer of the country. Whether I want that person to be the president or not, I still respect the office.
If you had never given Starlink to the Ukrainian government for free, voluntarily, you just volunteered it, then no one would be attacking you right now for not turning it on so they could do their attack on Crimea.
Yeah.
Also, one other thing I'll note is that your reason for not turning it on, which is you don't be part of what could be a major escalation, was exactly the reason the Biden administration did not give ATACMS missiles to Ukraine at that point in the war. Now, they may be changing their minds, but they were very worried about an attack, the administration was, an attack on Crimea, triggering some huge escalation in this war. So not only did you not receive a directive from President Biden, your thinking was very much in line with theirs at the time, and
Right,
yet,
exactly.
and you're being attacked for that now.
There's a very large amount of money that's been appropriated for Ukraine. I'm not sure what the total is at this point, but it must be close to 100 billion, or somewhere between 80 and 100 billion. Now all of the other sort of providers, U.S. providers of support to Ukraine are being paid. So then why should SpaceX be excluded? That doesn't make sense. We're doing one of the most valuable things, and yet are getting the least money. This is absurd. But despite that, we're still happy to keep going.
If you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and share the video with your family and friends so that they too will be able to benefit from this information. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you soon with another video.